Say hi! Hi to the camera! Welcome to YYC with Y, the series where we explore what Calgary, Alberta has to offer. Today, we're not talking about a physical feature of the city, but instead a story set within it. We'll be talking about the Gideon Keys, also known as the 200 Phenomena of Calgary. Now, first things first, what are the Gideon Keys? The best definition I found comes from a blog dedicated to the Glasgow, Scotland version of them. It defines the keys as the name given to a number of strange objects, locations, people, practices, or other phenomena that make up the occult history of particular regions of the world. The name Gideon Keys refers to the use of a Gideon Bible, a Bible often provided to hotel rooms, in an internet creepypasta, which was derived from an entry called Street Theory on the blog Unnatural Phenomena. The original entry was supposed to be a series of rumors and plot threads that could be incorporated into a campaign of the TTRPG Unknown Armies. There are 7 words in every Gideon's Bible. You know, the ones they stuff in every hotel room, that can't be found in any other Bible. If you repeat those 7 words to yourself while grasping the door knob to your room, the door will open to any hotel room in the world. Of course, if you want to control where you're going, you'll need to know the Gideon's key, one more inserted word, unique to each copy, that acts as an index for each room. The Calgary keys were originally posted to 4chan's X paranormal board by a user who would come to be known as CalgAnon, a portmanteau of CalgAnon, who said that he found the keys in Mackimmie Hall in a notebook filled with entries in 2009. The poster said there was 200 entries in the notebook total. However, only 117 of these were ever named on the internet, and of those 117, only 114 have descriptions to go along with it. This seems to be due to the fact that CalgAnon posted the entries 3 at a time by request, and that he had stopped posting before all of the entries had been archived on the internet. Most of the keys are standalone entries, though read enough of them, you can put together the pieces of an overarching story, which is that of a secretive occult community within Calgary. The keys bear a certain similarity to the structure of many early 2000s internet horror stories, specifically those step-by-step horror games like The Elevator to Another World, where if you do certain things at certain times, you can access hidden places or magical knowledge. Key 39 even directly references the popular internet creepypasta Smile Dog. Before I begin discussing the story deeper, here's some terminology that would be good to know going in. Practitioner seems to be a term used generally within the occult community as a way to refer to members of it, and specifically those who practice the occult. The term acolyte and seeker are used to refer to people who interact or look for the keys. Them, or they, are a mysterious group who seem to be antagonistic with the acolytes. They are first mentioned in Key 43, which states that they arrived here on some kind of ark, and mentions a character who used to be one. In Key 48, it alludes to a connection between them and allspice, as well as the fact that they arrived around the 1920s, and were originally mistaken for post-war immigrants. Key 104 implies that it is possible to be replaced by one of them, and not even be aware of it. They seem to have a close connection with some of the keys, possibly even being the origin of some of them. There are a few named characters in the series. Some of them contribute entries, some contribute knowledge, while some are simply mentioned by other characters. Sandy is the name used by the primary writer and compiler of the journal, whose purpose is to act as a guidebook, as stated in Key 93. Other names that almost definitely refer to them are the initials SA and SJ, and the nickname Sandman. It is also likely that Sandy is short for Sanford, a name which is first mentioned in Key 68. This idea is backed up by CalgAnon himself, who in a synopsis forum post used Sandy and Sanford to refer to the same individual. In Key 68, it's also mentioned that he runs a blog. Jessica Pearson, a 19-year-old art student, was an acquaintance of Sandy and a witch who was part of a coven. She's usually referred to in the entries as Jess, or more specifically Jess P. She's first mentioned in Key 2, and her disappearance is recorded in Key 68 after she tried to destroy a site connected to them. Matt is a character first mentioned by Jess in Key 2, and is subsequently mentioned in a few other keys as well. He seems to be another practitioner, and acquaintance of Sandy. Edward Ramsey Decay, also referred to as Eddie Decay, was first mentioned in Key 23. He runs a hidden occult bookshop whose Calgary entrance can be located in the basement of a pizza shop in Brentwood. It's also implied that he's some sort of entity, as he's been alive since at least the 1920s. In one of the posts by CalgAnon, he also speculates that it is Decay that Sandy is making the journal for, a theory backed up by Key 110, which states that Decay collects and swaps these out with acolytes. Nick Maharis is an acquaintance of Sandy and a fellow practitioner. He's first mentioned in Key 93, and his death is recorded in a DVD, which is Key 114. His last entry before his death is Key 193, which mentions his experience with weird phenomena in the Children's Hospital, and his intention to meet Sandy at Sunnyside Station and subsequently break back into it. However, since he died at said station, it's safe to assume that that never went through. Some other pieces of fun world building include mentions of Chicago's mythological gangster computer gods in Key 110, 6 other versions of Calgary, which are the focus of Key 89, Old Calgary, New Calgary, Left Calgary, Right Calgary, Dream Calgary, and Mirror Calgary. Now, do I personally believe that the keys are real? In short, no. Pegasus, don't knock this down. Pegasus. All the keys really do read like those early internet horror creepypastas. It's also important to note that photos of the notebook were never actually posted. All the entries were typed up or transcribed by CalgAnon himself. Supposedly this is because he didn't own a scanner, but make of that what you will. And moreover, whenever it comes to matters of the paranormal, occult, supernatural, or anything along those lines, I am a skeptic at heart. But as much flack as I might seem to be giving the keys, I really do enjoy them as a story. Calgary isn't exactly a city known for its horror scene, so the fact that it gets to be home to its very own creepypasta is pretty cool, and honestly, I welcome it. And I'm far from the first or only one to take an interest in the keys. There's a fan-run wiki.site site dedicated to the keys, and a Discord server that can be accessed through said wiki.site site. There was even a short film about the keys that was played at the Calgary Underground Film Festival in 2023. Personally, I discovered the keys through The Ghost in My Machine, which is a website that compiles online horror stories. I had been a fan of the site for a while, and it was there that I stumbled upon an article that the author of the site had written about the keys. And while I am not an occult believer, I am a horror fan. And it was as a horror fan, and somebody who wanted this YouTube video to be more exciting than me just talking at you, that I decided to temporarily become an acolyte and try to find some of the keys myself. Ignore the cloak, it's there to set the mood. Choosing which of the keys to attempt was actually pretty hard. As I mentioned earlier, only 114 of the keys are actually recorded in a state that could be attempted, not to mention the fact that I had some criteria they'd have to meet. I wasn't going to be trying any keys that involved breaking laws, spending too much money, getting hurt or hurting others, or doing anything too disruptive in public. The breaking laws rule is pretty straightforward. I am recording this and I'm not committing a crime on camera. The spending money rule is due to the fact that, although I love making videos, this is a passion project, and I am not spending ridiculous amounts of money to do the keys, especially since I won't even spring for a proper recording setup and microphone. Key number 70, for example, requires booking a flight to access a hidden baggage claim at the YYC airport. The injury rule should also be pretty obvious. I am not sending myself or anyone else to a hospital over a YouTube video. Q149, for example, involves climbing down a manhole by Nose Hill Park, which is more risk and effort than I am willing to put in for this video. The disruption rule exists because I'm not going to disturb some random people's lives or work schedules for this video, because that would make me feel like one of those really awful prank YouTubers. Key 121, for example, involves going to Caden's coffee shop in Bowness and ordering a large black eye made with Prince of Darkness roast. I'm not disturbing some poor barista and confusing them, and also I don't think I could live with the embarrassment. My last two criteria was that the key had to be filmable and able to be done in a timely manner. This was for a video, and some keys, like key 160, involved a purely imaginative ritual, which I don't think would be pretty interesting to watch. Keys 107 and 168 also got thrown out because they involve wandering around until you stumble into another plane of reality, and I don't exactly have the patience for that. And it was during the selection process that I figured out that a lot of the keys were just impossible or near impossible to do, even outside of not fitting my criteria. This was often due to there being nothing within the city that matched the key's description, or inversely, the key's description being so vague that it could be a multitude of places or things. The location of the key being a place that the average person would not be able to access, like the Calgary wastewater treatment facility. The key requiring a very specific item that it would not work without. These 24 and 38 fall into this category, since 24 involves finding a specific remote, and 38 involves finding a specific record in a yellow envelope in an unspecified secondhand record store. And the fourth reason being the fact that the key's location or probability of working is not fixed, aka it will be in a random location, or it's not guaranteed to work every time. And since the keys were released in 2009, some of the things they require are just outdated and involve doing things like stealing cable, developing Kodak film at a 1-hour photo developing store, using bus routes that have since been cancelled, dialing Calgary Transit's automated number, which they no longer have, using libraries that no longer exist, making an AOL a messenger account, accessing paper boxes for a now defunct newspaper, or using specific internet cafes that either never existed or have long since closed down. In fact, in the end, only 5 of the 114 keys managed to fit my criteria. Key 7, the beach, involves entering an elevator on the bottom floor and pressing all the elevator buttons inside it in ascending order to enter a cottage on another plane of existence, with a beach outside of it. Key 78, the circus, involves waiting until dusk, closing your bedroom door, and saying, "Life just seems so gray," as the sun sets over the horizon. If it worked when you open the door, you should be able to walk into the circus. Key 142, the typewriter, involves going to the basement of the administration building on the University of Calgary campus and finding a broken bookcase. Moving the bookcase to the side will reveal a hidden office detailing a history of the Germans winning World War II. Thinking about it now, a weird amount of keys mention an alternate history where the Germans won World War II. And key 153, the radio station, involves driving along the river at night and listening to a night-only radio station, 104.6. If you listen on your birthday before midnight, the news segment will read your fortune from the year you're now in, while if you listen after midnight, it will read your fortune from the next year. The keys being difficult or impossible to complete was likely intentional, since if people were able to do it easily, they'd be able to disprove it easily, and no good horror story should be able to be disproved easily. Eventually, I decided to do keys 40, 7, and 142. I decided against key 153 since you need a car to film in. Also, you need to wait till your birthday, and I wasn't gonna wait months to film this. The following footage will be from my very own Acolyte quest, so let's get in. The first key I attempted was the typewriter. It had to be at the university on a Saturday anyway due to a midterm, so I used that opportunity to film while the university wasn't as busy as it normally is. To access the basement, I decided to try the elevator in the administration building that's closest to the Science Theater's connection. As you can see, although there is a button to get to the basement, I wasn't able to use it. If I had to guess, I'd figure that there's a key card or something that you need to use to activate it, so that way it turned out to be a bust. But I didn't let that deter me, so I decided to try the stairs instead. Weirdly enough, the basement doors that the stairs have access to were fully unlocked, which makes me wonder why the elevator access didn't work. But whatever the reason, this meant that the basement was available for me to snoop around in. Before this, I'd never been in the administration building's basement before. In fact, my familiarity with the building began and ended with either walking through it to get from the education building to science theaters, or from sitting in the atrium. It didn't really break any expectations, though. It was basically one looping hallway with a few dead ends. The rooms on the floor seemed to be mostly classrooms, offices, or storage areas. Unfortunately, I didn't manage to find any broken bookcases like the key article describes. The closest I found were metal lockers, but they didn't hold any books, or have any painted shut doors behind them for that matter. So, yeah, the basement did not end up holding a secret office, but it definitely did give me the creeps. It may have been the cold, unchanging hallways, how empty it ended up being, or maybe every single basement is destined to be slightly menacing in some way, shape, or form. Either way, I was happy to get out of there. The next key attempt, which is the beach, also involved an elevator. There will be a weird amount of elevator footage in this video. I used one of the EL building elevators at the U of C campus, since I had to go there for a bio lab anyway. As you can see here, I entered the elevator from the lowest floor and pressed all the buttons in ascending order. And disappointingly, you can see that the only place it takes me is to the second floor, not a hidden beach. Unfortunately, another failure. And I also got footage of the first major snowfall of the 2023 to 2024 season, so definitely a cool experience nonetheless. Now on to the final key attempt, the circus. This key was by far the simplest of the three, which is why I saved it for last. All I had to do was look at the time the sun would be setting and wait at my bedroom door. Life just seems so gray. And with that failure, I closed off my acolyte quest. So, if you're ever in Calgary, maybe try some of the keys yourself. Maybe you get to prove me wrong. Maybe you'll be the lucky person to get them to work. And if you're not able to try the keys for yourself, try looking up local horror stories in your own area. And if there isn't any, maybe you can make some. Be the internet horror phenomena you wish to see in the world. And whether you're in Calgary or not, I'd highly recommend reading the keys. They're a really interesting look into Calgary pre-2010, and I found out a lot of things I didn't know about the city just by researching things mentioned in them. As always, my sources are linked in the description below, and I'd highly recommend reading them, since so much information in this video was only possible for me to get because of other people's research and archiving, so check them out. Thank you for watching this video, and hope you'll see me later.